Hi, Kipsters. Welcome back to Wit and Wisdom. Today we are going to be finishing up lesson 4, so that's why I called it lesson 4.5. And tomorrow actually is going to be our last day of talking about wild about books. So today we're going to be looking really closely at the pictures and the words in the text. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that it's a bummer, but my camera on my computer was not working today. And so that is why you will not see my face in this video today. But hopefully by tomorrow, my camera will be back up and running and you can see my face in this video too. But today you can just go ahead and listen and watch the PowerPoint along. So with that, we're going to jump into our warm-up. Oops, went a little bit too far. There we go. For our warm-up today, you are going to get your brains and your bodies warmed up by silently acting out your animal from your journal entry. So just as a reminder, at the end of last week, you had the chance to write in your journal about one type of animal at the zoo. So take a second to remember, what is the one type of animal that you wrote about at the zoo? And you can't see me right now, but I'm pulling out my response journal out and I'm looking up, I wrote down one type of animal in the story is pandas. Okay, so my job is going to be to act out a panda. Whichever animal you wrote about, you are going to be acting out. And if you have some extra time or you want to act out another animal, you can do that too. But I'm going to have you go ahead and pause your video. It takes 10 seconds to silently act out your animal. Awesome job, Kipsters. I cannot wait to see you acting out those animals in our small group later. And I hope that your brains and your bodies are feeling ready to get into the rest of our lesson. Today, we are going to be finishing up our focusing question, which was, how does the librarian make reading fun and wild about books? And we're going to get one step closer to answering that focus question by looking at our content question. Remember, that's our itty bitty question that we are going to answer today. And our content question is, what is the essential meaning of wild about books? And so before we start answering what is the essential meaning, I just want you to take a second to think to yourself, what does the word essential mean? Where have you heard that word before? What do you think that word might mean? What does the word essential mean? You might remember this word essential from our essential question. Essential means something is absolutely necessary or extremely important. So an example of using the word essential in a sentence is, noodles are an essential part of spaghetti. So if I don't have noodles, then I can't have spaghetti. The noodles are absolutely necessary, extremely important, or essential to being a part of the spaghetti. And so today we are going to be naming the essential meaning, which is the most important message or the most important meaning of wild about books. And so every single book has an essential meaning. That is the important message that the author wants you to know. And today we're going to be using our clues to try to think about what the author of Wild About Books wants us to know. Before we hop into looking at our clues, we put essential up on our word wall. Now we've got 3 words. We've got stampeding, wild, and essential. And my push for you is, after you're done with your wit and wisdom lesson today, to try to use the word essential in a sentence with your family so that you can get some extra practice using that word. So like I was saying, the essential meaning is the important message that the author tells us. Every single author writes a book with the intention of teaching you something. And so it's really important that when we look at a book, we think about, why did the author write this book? Or what does the author want to teach us through their important message or their essential meaning? So today we are going to be looking at the words whose job is to tell us the story, and the illustrations whose job is to to show us the story. And we are going to be looking at the words and the pictures together to come up with what the author wanted us to know. So we're going to look at a few different sections of the book, and your job is to think first, what is different and how do the animals change? So our first clip is going to show what the animals were like at the very beginning. And then our next clip is going to show what the animals were like after they were introduced to books. You're thinking about, how are they different or how did they change? So we're going to watch our first clip, and you're thinking to yourself, how were the animals at the beginning? What were they like at the very beginning of the book?
It started the summer of 2002 when the Springfield librarian Molly McGrew by mistake drove her bookmobile into the zoo. Molly opened the door and she let down the stair, turned on the computer, and sat in her chair. At first, all the animals watched from a distance.
So, Kipsters, I want you to think, what was Molly like what were the animals like at the very beginning of the book? We're going to go ahead and watch that clip one more time. What were the animals like at the very beginning
Wild
of the book?
About Books by Judy Sierra, illustrated by Mark Brown. It started the summer of 2002 when the Springfield librarian Molly McGrew by mistake drove her bookmobile into the zoo.
Ooh, I'm looking at how
Molly
the animals
opened the door
look
and she
how
let
they're
down
acting.
the stair, turned on the computer, and sat in her chair. At first, all the animals watched from a distance, but Molly could conquer the strongest resistance.
So I'm wondering, Kipsters, first at the beginning of the book, what are all the animals doing? What are they doing? How are they feeling? And how are they acting? I noticed that the animals were sitting in maybe their rooms of the buildings of the zoo, and they were watching from a distance. That tells me that maybe they were a little bit nervous or not quite sure what to think about Molly and her bookmobile. Now we're going to watch another clip, and your job is to think, how did the animals change? So if we know that at the beginning, the animals are feeling a little unsure about Molly in the books, what changes? How do they change in this next clip? Let's watch and see.
Their nests and their nooks. They went wild, simply wild, about wonderful books.
So I want you to think, what was different from the animals at the very beginning to now? You're going to go ahead and pause your video and share out loud. I noticed the animals changed because, go ahead and pause and share. Awesome job, Kidsters. You might have shared that you noticed the animals changed because at the beginning of the book, they were feeling shy and nervous about reading. But by page 7 and 8, they were feeling really excited or going wild about books. And so the way they felt about books changed, and something was different because they were excited about reading. Now we're going to look at another section of the book. And we're going to think about a question that we've asked ourselves a few times. How are the books different for different animals? So as you're watching the clip, you're thinking about how are the books different for different animals?
And books and fat books and Cat in the Hat books and new books and true books and heaps of how-to books. Giraffes wanted tall books and crickets craved small books, while geckos could only read stick-to-the-wall books. The pandas demanded more books in Chinese. Molly filled their requests, always eager to please. She even found waterproof books for the otter who never went swimming without Harry Potter. Raccoons read alone, and baboons read in bunches, and llamas read dramas while eating their lunches. Hyenas shared jokes with the red-bellied snakes, and they howled and they hissed till their funny bones ached. A tree kangaroo, who adored Nancy Drew, began solving mysteries right there at the zoo, such as, why were the bandicoots' books overdue? Gently.
Alrighty, friends, now that you've had a chance to see a lot of different animals reading a lot of different books, I want you to go ahead and pause your video right here and share. How are the books different for different animals? So you can say the books are different because, go ahead and pause and share. Nice job, Kibsters. You might have shared that the books are different because different animals need different types of books. For example, some animals need big books and some animals need small books. Animals also have different books based on the different things that they're interested in. Like the hyenas had joke books because they wanted to laugh, And I forget who it was, one of the animals had the Nancy Drew book because she wanted to solve mysteries. So the different animals had different books based on their interests and on their needs. Awesome job, Kipsters. Go ahead and give yourselves a high five. We have one more question to ask ourselves before we put it all together to find our essential meaning. Our last question is, do the animals still need Molly, and how do you know? So we're going to look at the very end of Wild About Books, and your job is to think, do the animals still need Molly to run the library, and how do you know whether they need her or not? Do they still need
So many
Molly?
new books. Molly knew what to do. She hired 12 beavers, a stork, and a gnu to build a branch library right there at the zoo. Then the animals cried, "We can do it ourselves! We can check the books out. We can put them on shelves." And they did, and they do, up to this very day. 3 cheers for the zoobrary. Hip hip, hooray! When you visit the zoo now, you surely won't mind if the animals seem just a bit hard to find. They are snug in their niches, their nests and their nooks, going wild, simply wild, about wonderful books.
All right, friends. Now that we've watched the last few pages, your job is to show me either a thumbs up if you think the animals do still need Molly, or a thumbs down if you think the animals don't need Molly anymore. So go ahead and show me a thumb up or a thumb down. Ooh, I'm seeing lots of good answers out there. Some Kipsters are saying that the animals still need Molly. Some are saying that they don't need Molly. Ooh, Kipsters, if you put your thumb down, you are correct. At the end of the book, the animals don't need Molly anymore. But we're going to watch those pages one more time so that you can think about how you know that the animals need Molly. What clues are there that the animals don't
So
need
many
Molly
new books.
anymore?
Molly knew what to do. She hired 12 beavers, a stork, and a gnu to
Do I
build a
see in the
branch library
pictures the
right there at
animals
the
are building
zoo.
their own
Then the
library?
animals cried, "We can do it ourselves!
Oh, the
We can
words
check
told
the
me they
books
said they
out.
can do it
We can put
themselves.
them on shelves." And they did, and they do, up to this very day. 3 cheers for the zoobrary. Hip hip, hooray!
What did the pictures and the words tell you and show you that makes you know that the animals don't need Molly anymore to run the library? Go ahead and pause your video. You can say, the words told me, and the picture showed me, Awesome job, friends. You might have shared that the picture shows you the animals building their own library, and the word said that the animals told Molly that they could do it by themselves. So the animals now don't need Molly for their library, and they can be wild about books all by themselves and run their own zoobrary. Now we're going to put all of our clues together. We talked about how the animals changed from the beginning of the book to the middle of the book because they used to be shy about books and now they're wild about them. We also talked about how different animals had different books based on their needs and their interests. And we also talked about how eventually the animals were able to take care of the library all by themselves. I want you to think, what does the author want us to know about reading and about books? Take a second to think to yourself. What does the author want us to know about reading and about books? What can we learn from the animals about reading and books in our own lives? So I'm thinking, okay, what can I learn from the animals about reading in my own life? What is the author trying to teach me? You're going to go ahead and pause your video and share. The author wants us to know, Go ahead and pause and share. Awesome job, friends, thinking of what could be the essential meaning of this book. Here are some answers that you might have come up with. If my answer matches yours, I want you to show me a silent me too. If you thought something different, I want you to stick it in your brain so that you can share your thought with your teacher during your small group about what you thought the author wanted us to know. Here are some things that I thought the author wanted us to learn about reading and about books from Wild About Books. First, the author wants us to know that reading is exciting. The author also wants us to know that books are for everyone. And different books fit different readers. That's what we talked about, the animals' needs and their interests. Also, reading can change everything. The animals went from being nervous and unsure about reading to starting their own library and not even needing Molly anymore. Awesome job, Kipsters. You did a really good job working to find clues and put them together to find our essential meaning. This is definitely a tricky skill and something that we'll be working on all year. So if you felt like that was a little bit tricky or difficult, don't worry, we'll have some more chances to practice. It's a great time to just get started practicing that skill so that we can get better and better. So last but not least, you are going to answer in your response journal and tell me one way that Molly makes reading fun in Wild About Books. So just like we wrote in our response journal last time, you're going to copy your sentence stem. Molly makes reading fun by And then you are going to fill in the blank and tell me at least one way that Molly makes reading fun for the animals in Wild About Books. Now, you can find this on your Seesaw, but here are your steps to record and take a picture of your response journal. So today you're going to have both a picture of your response journal and a recording of your voice reading out loud your response journal. So first, when you go to Seesaw, you're going to click this big Add Response button under this video. Then you're going to look and listen to my example on the first page. Then make sure on the right side of your Seesaw, you click on the second page where you can upload your picture and record your voice. Next, you're going to click the camera button on the left side and click the photo button to take a picture of your writing. Once you've taken a picture of your writing, you're going to click the microphone button to record your voice reading what you wrote. And then last but not least, you're going to click the check mark button to turn in your work. The reason that I'm having you show me your writing and read it out loud is so that, one, I can see how you used your finger spacing, your capitals, and your periods. But also, I know that it can be kind of tricky to take a super clear picture of your writing through Seesaw. And so if you read it out loud, then I definitely know what you wrote as well, instead of having to squint my eyes so small to try to read that writing on those pictures. So today I'm looking for a photo and a voice recording, and I cannot wait to see you all in our small groups. Have a wonderful day.